Hi, this is my first video, and the reason why I'm recording this whole thing is that even now, when it's been quite a while since Crimson Desert launched, there hasn't really been that many people discussing the story, at least not actually discussing the story. There's plenty of people complaining, honestly, I get it, but I really wanted to talk about the story because the more I play this game, the more I realized that there's quite a lot to be discussed. So I wanted to go deeper and really try to understand what's happening in the Crimson Desert story. So obviously I also have to give a obvious spoiler alert. So maybe if you haven't played the game at all, maybe this is not the video for you if you don't want spoilers. If you don't care, I'm glad that you're watching the video. So for this video, I actually went back and replayed the prologue in a separate account so that I could really understand what was going on and not just talk out of memory, but also to understand what information we were presented by the game at that time. So Crimson Desert never really gives us an actual introduction like many other games do. There's no cutscene, there's no dialogue, you're just thrown right in the middle of it. You obviously start playing as Cliff, our main character. And right off the bat, we can kind of see that his traveling companions are in a very tense situation. Even if we, as the audience or the player, can't really understand what is going on without the details, we can understand that the situation is very dire. So for starters, Cliff, the main character, and his traveling companions are a group of people from Payloon. So I called them group, but they're actually more like a tribe. Payloon, as a nation, is a tribal state. When I first read the phrase, the tribal state of Payloon, I kind of understood that the tribal state means that it was temporarily in a tribal state. So it was in a moment in which power was constantly changing between tribes. But that's not the case. Politics and power in Payloon are divided between tribes. The Greymanes are one of these tribes. However, the first moment here happens in Hernand, not Payloon. So what we can gather from the context given is that the Greymanes, Cliff's traveling companions, were separated for a moment, and the Black Bears, which are another tribe from Payloon, attacked them. And this is why in the first couple scenes of the game, we see multiple graves near the cabin. We actually hear this from Max, one of the first Greymanes we talked to in the game. He believes that there is a traitor among the Greymanes, because in the exact moment that the Greymanes were separated, they got attacked. Continuing with the prologue, Cliff enters this cabin in which some of the most important members of the Greymanes are together, and they're eating and they're talking, so we can see some characters like Naira, Unka, Dwayne, Shane, and Jan. And they're angry, they're screaming at each other, and that's because obviously they had lost some comrades. Because one might have guessed from the trailer that the Greymanes are simply a group of mercenaries, but in reality they are, like I said before, a tribe or a family. So even though we only see a couple of graves and we understand that the Greymanes are a much bigger force, it is clear that they really feel sad about this loss. Right here we can actually see a little bit of the personalities of the Greymanes. Jan, being lighthearted about things, he's trying to use levity to make the situation seem better than it is. Dwayne is very offended by this, and Shane tries to calm the nerves. Naira calls them out on their behavior but does not try to de-escalate things. And Cliff here is interesting because all throughout this he's mostly silent, just giving small comments on the situation. He did say some words on Giles' graves outside, but not much more than that. I think something else that is important to understand here is that despite the fact that we play as Cliff and we can see that he has an important role in the Greymanes, he is not necessarily their leader, or at least a single leader, or the maximum power within the Greymanes. The Greymanes seem to be very much vocation based, so if you are a good fighter, you're going to be in the fighters division. Let's just say you are good as a spy or as a scout. You're going to be in the scout division, similar to Marius. If you are a good archer, you're going to work as an archer, and so on. So the tribe needs many people with many different skills and vocations to work, but they don't necessarily have an absolute leader, while they do have prominent figures. Also here, Unka actually speaks way less than Cliff. He is clearly a man of very few words. Just adding something here, I do believe that the fantasy races and other things were kind of added pretty late into development, so I do think that Unka was not going to be a character at all in the game, but got added later. This is why he is one of the very, very few non-human characters in the Greymanes, but also he has a very minor role in the vast majority of scenes in the game. He appears very little, even though he is one of the playable characters, and he's clearly advertised with the game. But it's clear that he has this father or older brother presence within the Greymanes, in which he does seem to try and bring some calmness and reason to situations. In this sense, I think we can agree that Umka and Cliff are the main figures of leadership in the tribe. He is actually the one with actual gray hair, like a gray mane, but that's a detail for another video. Still in the cabin scene, we also see a Greymane that enters through the door. He seems severely injured. Looks like he ran through the camp and didn't look to anybody else. He was looking for Cliff and Unka, and he screams that the Black Bears are coming, that they found them even outside of Payloon, and here is where we get what I would say one of the most important lore drops with context of what is coming. Gian is dead. So, for context, Payloon seems based off Norway or Denmark in the 10th century. Since in these places during this time there are quite a few Viking groups, and during this time there was a rise of a historical figure called Harold Fairhair. From what we know, he was a warrior king who was able to start the process of unification of Norway specifically. In other words, he was able to unite different groups under a single banner, more or less, and I think Gian is based off this man. Cliff is very quick to understand what he said, and to understand the type of situation that it brings. With some context clues, we understand that the Black Bears weren't too happy with Gian's rule, and that's why they killed him and attacked the Greymanes, who at the time were supporters of Gian and his promise of peace and the bettering of Payloon.
Gian has fallen, and with the great leader's death, our land, Payloon, once unified, has been plunged into chaos. And now, a bloody battle unfolds between the Greymanes, who fight to uphold his will, and the Black Bear forces that seek to set it aflame.
In this section starts the second attack of the Black Bears. They have overwhelming numbers that quickly overwhelm the Greymanes, and they very quickly separate all of the main characters, with Unka getting severely injured and leaving the fight. Naira is attacked by a bunch of Black Bears. Jan gets thrown into a river, and we see Myrden, who seems to command the Black Bear tribe, arriving, and he taunts and attacks Cliff, who can't defeat them all and loses. Myrden then cuts his throat and throws his body into the river. Now, this is where the more complicated or convoluted part of the story starts. So we see that Cliff falls into the water, and the interesting part starts here because he falls into this very shallow and rapid river But when he goes under, it seems like he fell into a very deep and calm water. And also we see that something shines on his arm. He then wakes up in this other realm with a bracelet in his arm, the Axiom bracelet. At this moment in the game, you can already check your inventory because now most of the menus in the game open up to you, and you can actually check the description from the Axiom bracelet, which reads, "A bracelet imbued with the providence of nature. The mysterious power within it awakens the wearer's latent abilities. Powerful and versatile, it is not something just anyone can wield." So there's a lot here. So first things first, Cliff already had the skills and the nature skill tree during his first fight. So from what I understand from the world of Crimson Desert is that almost everyone, to a certain degree, has some sort of magical power. I feel like this is something that is kind of hard to grasp in the first few hours of the game, because this is never explicitly said, but it is a magical world with magical creatures. Right off the bat, you're thrown into this kingdom that floats in the skies and gives you powers. But I think what really gives us the information that we need is the Axiom bracelet description, in which it kind of alludes to the idea that people have latent abilities, so they have hidden abilities that can be developed over time. And we see this with our allies and other characters, hostile or not, in the game. So I do think we need to remember that this is a fictional world in which fiction elements are weaved into almost everything. So Cliff is thrown into this place called the Corridor of the Void. You can also read the description for this place, and it states that this is a place in which your only option is to move forward. And this is what Cliff does. Like just everything else in the game, he doesn't question things and just moves forward. This is a tutorial area in which you learn a lot of basic skills like jumping, climbing, sneaking, or crouching. The only skill that we actually see that has, again, a little bit of a supernatural characteristic is the Blinding Flash. Because in the Blinding Flash, you're not just using your blade to create a reflection. We can clearly see that in this skill, there's something that connects your arm either to the bracelet or to your spine that creates a sort of magical effect. So we reach the end of the Corridor of the Void, and we are transported back into those calm waters. But something pulls Cliff back, and in the next sequence, we learn that someone saved Cliff from the river. This person is Sebastian, and we are left without an explanation of what happened. Why did he save Cliff? How did he save Cliff? And again, in this moment, we can read Sebastian's description in the game files, and here it says that Sebastian woke up on that day and he saw a very curious white bird, and he had this feeling that he really needed to go to the Nas River, and that's when he found Cliff. So from their conversation, we can understand that Sebastian not only saved Cliff, but also took care of him for a couple of days. From this moment, it is not clear to us as to when he found Cliff in the water, was Cliff that badly injured from when we last saw him in the fight with Muradin. From Sebastian's comments, we do have that idea because he's very firm in the idea that Cliff still needs rest because of the severity of his injuries, which is understandable. But the weird thing is, Cliff wasn't injured in the Corridor of the Void. He was perfectly fine. Anyway, Sebastian then tells us if we want to find our comrades, we should head to the Hernan Tavern. Some other events happen in this section, but I don't really think they are important to the plot as of now. So anyway, we follow Sebastian to a camp near Hernan Castle, and that's where the prologue ends. So, if you reached the end of this video, I would like to first thank you for watching everything and listen to me talk. I want to say that I'm sorry. I know that the audio quality is not great. I am recording from my phone. I don't actually have a good mic. And I had never realized how strong my accent is. I'm not a native English speaker. So, yeah, sorry for that. I do think that the audio quality will improve a little bit if I ever make another video. Mostly because on that specific day that I recorded the audio, not only was a thunderstorm happening near my home, but I also had a strep throat, so I do think that the audio quality will improve eventually. Also, just for a disclaimer, I had to edit some parts of this video because I believe that as the updates of the game are rolling in, they are changing some things. So, for example, in the Corridor of the Void part, I had a whole section in which I talked about how the Corridor of the Void is described as a vision, but when I actually went to edit the video, I couldn't find it because I believe that they are changing the descriptions as the game is updated. For the sake of honesty, I have to say that I am not 100% happy with the quality of this video. While I did have some knowledge on editing, I had never done anything to this extent with so much editing and so much audio. However, at this point, I'm just postponing this video so much that I think that if I overthink too much, I will never post it and it will never go forward. So I would just post it as it is and I'll accept it as my first video. It can be bad, so that's okay. And anyway, I hope that you were able to maybe glean or learn something that you hadn't realized the first time that you played the game. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you.